Hey guys, Ronnie Wuest, Delaware Self-Defense Academy here in Dover, Camden, Middletown, and of course Rehoboth, and probably a little cheap plug for the new Milford location coming up. Okay, so my son Tony, my friend Greg's one of our instructors here. Tony just 2 days ago won his third Delaware State wrestling title. It's a big deal, congratulations. And this video is not about him per se, it is not. It is about Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling and the correlation between the two. I've been telling people this kind of information for years. I never really put a video on it because, quite frankly, I wanted him to get out of school first. But so during his high school career, he finished with 108 pins, which is clearly a state record. But here's the interesting thing: of those 108 pins, 93 were in the first period. Okay, you know, a handful you could think, well, he caught them. You know, a handful more, okay, he caught him, he's pretty good. But when you start racking up those kind of numbers, there's more to it than just catching people. There's a lot of science and training behind it. I want to explain today just a few minutes of what that training is. So Tony started training Jiu-Jitsu when he was 4 years old, and you're 18 years old. So, you know, that's a long time, 14 years of Jiu-Jitsu. Now, most people that I talk to in the area have no idea what Jiu-Jitsu is, Oh, it's karate, oh, it's this, oh, that. No. Jiu-Jitsu does have self-defense components, does have striking components, does have takedowns and throws, a lot of judo, and a history of philosophy component. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to you have to fight yourself off the ground from a fight. And it's grappling, okay? I've had old school wrestlers say, I don't want my kids doing anything with wrestling because it's not the same. And that's just a ridiculous statement to say. That's just someone being hard and old school about it. Grappling is grappling, okay? It doesn't make a bit of difference what the rule set is. Two guys wrestling around on the ground. If you say, okay guys, today the rules are you can't get pinned. All right, well guess what, that's wrestling. All right guys, today you can bend your back all you want and you can do submissions if you want. Okay, now you're doing jiu-jitsu. Grappling is grappling. And the more you do of it, the better you're gonna be. All you have to do is dictate the rule set, right? So what I want to talk about is, well, actually, I'll back up a little bit just so you don't think I'm some crazy martial arts guy. I've been involved in wrestling literally my entire life. I've been a head coach of top team now for almost 9 years. Well, Coach Drew has taken it over, but I coached middle school wrestling for many, many years. I've coached my kids, both Ronnie, my oldest son, and Tony, for years. I wrestled myself from when I was a little kid all the way through high school into college. I got a lot of wrestling background as well. So I humbly speaking, I would consider myself an expert in wrestling and an expert in jiu-jitsu. Now, I also think I'm probably the only guy that has that combination of expertise in Delaware, of black belt level hoist grade jiu-jitsu and wrestling. So I want to talk a little bit about the correlation now of practicing wrestling and jiu-jitsu at the same time. One of the things that wrestling coaches always neglect is they always neglect the ability for the top guy to stay mounted, to stay on top of somebody. And what I mean by that is if two wrestlers are practicing at a wrestling practice, and one wrestler gets the other one onto his back, right, in a pinning combination, a pinning position. Either their etiquettes are going to be, all right, I pinned you, let's start again. Or the coach is going to say, all right, start again, you're on your back. By stopping the practice that soon, or stopping the grappling that soon, you have just prevented the top guy from a lot of good practice time of being able to stay mounted, to stay on top of the guy. I can't tell you how many times I've watched in a wrestling match, a wrestler throw another wrestler, or get on top, but he can't stay there. And he loses out on the points or the pin because he can't stay there. The ability to stay mounted on somebody or to stay on top of somebody comes from practice. It's riding somebody. All right? So for example, Greg, lay down on your back for me, feet this way. Okay. Turn this way, feet this way, there you go. Side mount. So, in jiu-jitsu, this is okay. I mean, it's not great for this guy. I mean, he's in a bad spot. It's not the end of the world. He's not pinned. The event's not over. In a street fight, it's not over. It's going to keep going. So as they're grappling around, go ahead and move around a little bit. Move around, and Tony goes to a mount position. Okay, stop right there. In a wrestling practice, a traditional wrestling practice, the coach is like, all right, guys, get up, start again. Well, why? Let this guy practice. Let this guy learn how to use his legs and his balance and his weight and his internal gyroscope and everything. So go ahead and move around, Greg. He's trying to get out. You know, the top guy gets practice staying on top, you know? Keep moving, yeah. Like this would never happen in a wrestling practice for more than a second or two before the coach is like, all right guys, time, stop. You know? Now, jump up a minute. Occasionally, you know, a good wrestling coach is going to say, all right, let's do some, sparring on how to, you know, not get pinned. But that's rare from my experience. You don't see that very often. You know, and honestly, I'm not being negative on wrestling coaches. I'm not at all. What I'm saying is that's typically one of the fewest things that's ever really practiced is fighting off your back stuff. All right? So the ability to do that, go ahead and do that one more time, just on your back for me. Tony's mounted. Go ahead and move around. Go ahead. The ability to stay here and not get thrown off. Yeah, that takes a lot of practice. Okay, keep going. You know, the bottom guy's trying to fight off his back. The top guy is learning how to use his head as balance, flaring out his knees for balance, pulling up the bottom guy's arms, staying wide, staying flat, staying heavy. Okay? This takes a lot of practice. So in Jiu-Jitsu, we get a lot of this practice. For example, if these two guys, you guys can stop. Like on any given night of training or open mat, that situation right there could have gone on for, what do you think, 10, 15, 20 minutes sometimes. Depending on what the relationship with those, you know, if those guys had a time limit, they had a timer on, or they're just like, let's just go, keep going, you know? Now, occasionally the bottom guy would get out and they'd switch into different positions, but if you think about it, the amount of practice that somebody gets being on top over the course of months and years, there's no wonder guys like this can stay on top. They can pin people frequently because it's easy to stay on top when you have that level of practice. Okay. Another situation I want to talk about is gonna have a seat facing Dave. Take it back. Okay. Riding time. The ability to ride legs. Okay. Riding legs is one of the most important things we do in Jiu-Jitsu. Getting your, we call them hooks, getting your feet in, is super important. Okay. It's very important. But again, one thing in wrestling is you don't see a lot of it. Now, you do see more of this practice than you do the mounting practice, but this is super, super classic jiu-jitsu. So go ahead and move around a little bit. It's like the bottom guy is trying to get out. As long as he's not being choked, then he's focusing on getting out. You know? Yeah, top guy's holding on, moving around. You know, sometimes the bottom guy will turtle up a little bit. You know, move around. Top guy moves, goes back to his back, moves. Yeah. Again, very classic jiu-jitsu. This is good. Go ahead, Sam. So grappling is grappling, okay? Now, we wear the kimonos because in this particular class, we wear a kimono because it's a very traditional Gracie jiu-jitsu. There are other classes where we do what's called no kimono, just wear the pants and a compression shirt, but it all remains the same. It's still the ability to be in a position to maintain that position. So when you watch wrestlers who are extremely dominant, you know, who are extremely powerful on top, whether it be in a mount position sitting on a chest or taking someone's back. That is 100%, I don't want to say 100% jiu-jitsu. It's exponentially improved with jiu-jitsu. You know, if you look at all the wrestlers that have come through the state, very few of them are that dominant on top. Now you're seeing it. Now you're seeing these past couple of years, you're seeing a lot of the students that just won a state tournament this weekend are very, very active jiu-jitsu students. They're great with their legs, they're great with their balance, they're great with their pressure, and they're great with their timing and just understanding how to ride people. And I just don't want people to ignore the fact that grappling is grappling. If an old diehard, you know, old school wrestler, you know, doesn't want his kids or his grandkids or his wrestlers practicing jiu-jitsu, he's doing you a disservice. Grappling is grappling. It doesn't make a difference what the rule set is. You know, mat time is mat time, but it's not just mat time. It's mat time under a certain condition. Let people stay mounted on you for quite a while, right? Let them practice being on top. So you're on your back. Who cares? It doesn't make a difference. You're letting the top guy practice. Does that make sense? You know, the other thing, you know, is the judo component, the throws. You know, I can go on and on about it, but I'm sure you've seen the inside trips, you've seen the uchimaras, the osotogaris, things like that. I mean, go ahead, real quick, show Ouchigari, inside trip. Yeah, very, very classic. It's called Ouchigari in judo. All right, Osotogari, outside trip. Very classic outside trip. That's a Uchimata. Well, that's a Haraya-goshi, actually. Did that, he missed. That's a Haraya-goshi. Do that one again? It's just a very classic, big outer leg sweep. All right. So to go outside trip. Yeah. Okay. Again, all classic judo. Again, he's been practicing it for 14 years. So the ability to translate gi to no gi, wrestling to jiu-jitsu, street fight, self-defense. If you're ignoring jiu-jitsu and you're ignoring the judo, you're just doing yourself a disservice. If you want to be a phenomenal wrestler, yes, wrestle. But if you want to be even more than that, add other grappling techniques into it and put them all together. My last point, a lot of the major universities in this country, some of the top 10 NCAA Division I colleges are now implementing jiu-jitsu in their wrestling programs. Is it a coincidence? It is absolutely not a coincidence, all right? So again, I'm not selling it to you. If you don't want it, no problem. I just want to explain a little bit the correlation between jiu-jitsu, judo, and wrestling. And the fact is, grappling is grappling. And the more you do of it, of different kinds, so be it. That's just like why a lot of coaches want you to do freestyle and Greco, right? You can't use any freestyle techniques in a folk style match. So why in the world would you train it? Why? Because it makes you better. Why does Greco make you better? Well, Greco is judo, right? Greco and judo, almost the same thing. One just has a kimono on. Adding a kimono on just gives you different techniques, If someone wants to be best at wrestling, freestyle, Greco, jiu-jitsu, judo, do all of it. That's my suggestion coming from an expert background. Again, Greg, my friend, one of my instructors, my son Tony, they had a good training session tonight. You guys all right?
I'm amazing.
You guys pretty rough. All right, guys. Ronnie Wuest, Delaware Self-Defense Academy. Tony, Greg, have a great night.